So here we have some leaks that were brought to my attention. A lot of people were talking about it over the past 24 hours. And I wanted to kind of break it down a bit and see if this is legitimate before I decided to discuss it on the podcast. And I started like looking at trademarks and all kinds of stuff. And I mean, still even now, I question its legitimacy, but I'm just going to cover it, and then I'll let you guys decide and pick apart what I bring up too. So take everything with a grain of salt. We're here today to discuss a leak of what is potentially the full wave assortment for Transformers War for Cybertron Kingdom, the very last part of the War for Cybertron trilogy. Now we have what is supposedly all of the core class, which is what's replacing the weaponizer class, all of the deluxe class, all of the Voyager class, and all of the leader class. The source of this is unknown. Supposedly it came from a very reliable source in the past, and then it just started showing up on anonymous message boards and then bleeded onto the Transformer forums, and before you know it, it's on Reddit and it's on Twitter and everywhere else. It's just kind of how I guess the shit goes downstream, so to speak. So let's jump into that. So, Kingdom Wave 1, the core class. The replacement of the weaponizer, and we have our first new one here, which is mentioned as Byte Marx, spelled Byte like Skybite with a Y, and Marx with an X. Very interesting. I'm going to assume that this is our Fossilizer character. They talked about the Fossilizers and how this is going to be some kind of new gimmick that's like an armor that attaches to the characters using like fossils and dino characters. So I'm going to assume that this is our first ever Fossilizer character, and that's its name. As for trademarks, Hasbro has never had Byte Marks before, so I have no idea where this is coming from. I'm assuming that this might even be a stand-in name. Could be wrong. It does happen, though. Sometimes we have stand-in names. They've done that in the past. Studio Series was actually quite known for that. They would have stand-in names for leaks and stuff like that, and then the final products were more legitimate with their actual character names. Then, of course, they go on to mention also Core Rat Trap and Core Optimus Prime. We've mentioned that before. I think it was 2 weeks ago we talked about the leaks, which ended up becoming legitimate when we didn't even know Kingdom was a thing at the time. They did leave out here Megatron, because Megatron was on the list as one of the core characters, and the funny thing is that that price point is usually 4 figures. So I think maybe the list is just missing Megatron, but he should be on there according to the previous list. But it was originally Rat Trap, Optimus Prime, a missing Megatron here, and now this character, Byte Marks, which potentially is the Fossilizer. The next one here has Deluxe Cheetor, like we mentioned before, Deluxe Airazor, like we mentioned before, and then 2 that were not on the list previously. Number 1, a Deluxe Trax, that's an interesting choice to use it for the G1 cast to join the crew here. I guess maybe they needed some kind of Autobot flyer to go along with Airazor, and so since Trax has, I guess, his wing mode for his cars, I guess that could kind of work for the Corvette mode. And then this one really perplexes me. A brand new character named Chomp Stomp. I find that very weird to use that for a price point. Now, one thing could, I mean, first of all, let me break this down. So just the trademark itself. Now, in Transformers, there was no Chomp Stomp, but there was a gimmick-based toy line, a gimmick-based figure called Stomp and Chomp Grimlock, which was that humongous, I think it was like, had to be like 20 inches tall, Age of Extinction Grimlock toy that came out in 2014. It had that handle where you pulled it back and it auto-transformed. It was one of those big Christmas price point kind of toys from Age of Extinction. And then when you look at trademarks, like within Hasbro, it's like the only one that comes up is that they have this Playskool Hasbro Dino line called Chomp Squad, and their tagline is Chomp, Stomp, Save the Day. So I guess that's where Chomp Stomp comes from. That's just what I'm figuring out here. And the only thing I could say about this is that it's probably going to be one of the gimmicky-based deluxes, like a modulator or some kind of break-apart attached to character thing. That's the only thing I could think of, because it's very bizarre. It's very rare in general that the larger price points, like a deluxe or a Voyager or even a leader, in Generations are original characters. It's very rare. The only time we've ever really gotten original characters have been like those smaller price points where they could have fun with different trademarks and new names and new characters. I think the only time we ever really had a original character was something like Windblade, which was more of a or any of the, you know, fan vote characters, where it's really kind of been, you know, a special event thing. But Chomp Stomp, that's a weird one. That in my opinion, if it's not going to be like some kind of gimmicky thing that breaks apart or some new like fling to the line, maybe it's a deluxe size fossilizer for all we know, to go with the same thing with the Byte marks, Chomp Stomp. They're all biting gimmicks, you know, that go with these fossilizer armors. Who knows? But to me, I would have not wasted a deluxe price point on that. I would have put a more named character. But I think maybe they're trying to pace themselves over the next 3 to 4 waves that they're going to do this. That's just my take. I could be wrong. Then we go into the Voyager class. So again, 2 that we knew already, Optimus Primal and G1 Inferno. So nothing really new there. Curiously, missing from this list is what was mentioned as a Dinobot. But I remember when I read this list before, I was perplexed by the fact that there's 3 Voyagers in a wave, because usually it's 2. So maybe the absence of Dinobot is correct, and maybe he's elsewhere. Maybe he's part of, maybe that Chomp Stomp is Dinobot's, you know, stand-in name. Who knows? It could be Dinobot's actually a deluxe. Maybe there was a mistake there. And then going into the leaders. Now, nothing new here, except there is a twist, and that's in the naming. So originally, when we read the leader list 2 weeks ago, it was a leader Beast Wars Megatron and a leader Rodimus Primal. Rodimus Prime, excuse me. Ooh, that rolled off the tongue. I'm thinking back to the old Bakon days where there was a Rodimus Primal toy. That was a retool repaint of Apache, aka Baboom. And who made that custom? That thing was amazing. Anyways, it even showed up in Toy Fair magazine back in the day. Getting back to what I was saying, so originally when we were talking about Rodimus, I thought it was actually a mistake. Maybe it was actually a Studio Series 86 thing that somehow ended up on the Kingdom assortment listing. But now we have a new way of how this is listed. It's not Leader Rodimus Prime. It's Leader Mutant Rodimus. So is something going on? Is the mutant head gimmick coming back to Beast Wars? Is Rodimus becoming a beast character? Is something going on here? Is what was that line there? That there's that third party line there. I think it was like that had those Zoids looking beast kind of things that turn into G1 characters, and they had a Rodimus one that was like a lion. What could be going on here? This is interesting. So maybe we might not have the traditional, you know, vehicle-based Rodimus, but a Rodimus that turns into a Beast Wars character, which, in my opinion, talk about a meeting of the minds and a marriage of 2 of my favorite things, which is Hot Rod Rodimus and Beast Wars, you know, so that'd be pretty cool if that is true. And that's it, more or less. That's it. So that's Wave 1 in a nutshell. So it looks like that what we could take away from this more than anything is we're getting a better idea of what might be the gimmick going into it, which is this fossilizer kind of thing is going to be original characters with very, I don't know, dino jaw kind of naming conventions. At least that's what I think it is. And then the other side of it is, if Rodimus is any indication, Generation 1 characters could be potentially appearing, but appearing with a beast spin on them, which is what, in all honesty, I thought was going to happen initially. I thought, well, you know, they're still going to need to keep those trademarks if they go into a beast era. So what they'll just do is they'll just give us beast interpretations of Generation 1 characters that were originally vehicles. That's what I always thought, you know, like that's how I always felt, that if ever we ended up in like a 3 year Beast Wars stint, they're not going to lose those trademarks. They'll put Optimus Prime on something. They'll put Bumblebee on something, stuff that'll be aptly named. But the point is, this is it. I mean, take it with a grain of salt. Let me know what you think about it. It's very intriguing, but at the same time, I don't want to put too much thought into it, even though I actually kind of put a little bit of research. But at the same time, I guess I don't want to put too much excitement into it, because there's a potential that all of this could just be not what we think it is. And we just passed San Diego Comic-Con with very little reveals, but maybe Hasbro might give us another Fan First Friday, and stuff will start to become more clear before 2020 comes to an end.